The Dr. Melissa Show and the Stories That Shape Us is sponsored by CNY Mental Health Counseling. Welcome to the Dr. Melissa Show, brought to you by CNY Mental Health Counseling, a thriving group practice in upstate New York with professional counselors who provide compassionate, evidence-based care to hundreds of clients across New York State. This podcast is about stories, the ones that shape us, about resilience, about identity, and about how we navigate the unexpected twists of life. This isn't therapy, and I'm not here to analyze or fix. I'm here to hold space for real conversations, the kind that make us think, that dive beneath the surface, and that force us to ask hard questions about who we are, how we got here, and what truly matters. And before we dive in, a quick note, this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and not a substitute for professional mental health services. So let's get to today's episode. Born and raised in Syracuse, New York, and a proud Henninger High School graduate, Carlos Tearney is the owner of Champions Martial Arts and Great Kids Summer Camp and After School, two leading programs in Central New York focused on building confident, capable kids and empowering families through martial arts, summer and after-school programming, and life skill development. With over 35 years of experience working with youth and adults, Carlos began teaching even before graduating high school and has committed his life to helping people unlock their full potential on and off the mat. A 6th degree black belt, 11-time martial arts world champion, and level 3 certified instructor in Krav Maga, combative self-defense. Did I get it?
You did.
Okay. Carlos specializes in real-world personal protection and tactical self-defense. He's also a certified child life skills instructor, graduate of Michael Bernhoff's Human Interaction Technology, HIT, training, which is grounded in the principles of NLP, communication psychology, and behavior change, giving him a powerful edge when it comes to connecting with people, shifting mindset, and helping both kids and adults unlock breakthrough confidence. He's also highly skilled, sought-after corporate self-defense trainer and motivational speaker. Carlos works with both children and adults, coaching them not only in physical defense, but also in emotional resilience, leadership, and personal growth. Whether he's teaching life-changing skills on the martial arts mat, leading school safety seminars, or training corporate teams in personal protection, Carlos is committed to empowering every student he serves. His passion for development also extends into the Great Kids After School and Summer Camp programs, where martial arts is used as a foundation for confidence, discipline, and character building. Carlos is on a mission to make sure every individual he serves knows one thing: they are stronger, braver, and more capable than they think. So welcome, Carlos.
That was pretty good.
That's an impressive intro there, my friend.
I just got to make one correction.
All right, go for it, please.
I am a 5th degree black belt, not 6th degree. I might have maybe step one over on the little number thing. But,
you exaggerated just
slightly. Just a little bit. But we're a 5th degree black belt, not a 6th degree black belt. So I want to make sure, just in case anybody comes out and says he's only
You're
this.
Like, hey.
Yeah, I got it. I cleared it up. Yeah.
Like, hey, bring your self back down.
Yeah, try to get too high there.
So, I mean, seriously, this is very impressive. And just a little background, I brought my team to Carlos's studio to be trained by the best. And it's a group of predominantly women, middle-aged women. Mm-hmm. None of us have ever had, actually one of us on the team has had self-defense training before. But I loved that you made it so applicable, approachable, and relevant to what it is that we were doing.
Yes. Again, so I just look at it from the standpoint of, if I have the time with you, I want to try to maximize the time, right? Yeah. So I don't want to overcomplicate things or make things something that you wouldn't be able to take out and be able to use right away. So I try to go off of some of what your natural instinctive responses would be, and just kind of gear the self-defense around that. Most common things that you're going to face and see. So you're kind of prepared. So now, as opposed to being unprepared, you are more prepared, right? It's kind of like insurance, I guess, if you think of it, right? We have it just in case. So having the certain mindset of how to handle a situation before it escalates, when it does escalate, and then when I'm in the situation, I felt is very important. Again, this comes from a different place for me because, again, I think I shared it in our thing. My sister was attacked years ago, and at the time I didn't know this method of teaching, nor that I know this method of communicating so people can understand. So it's kind of been like a crusade for me. So when I have people in front of me, I really want to maximize that time that I have with them so I can really give them something that's tangible that they can use in a moment.
Yeah. And it sounds like, I mean, for you, like you just said, this is a personal passion for you in terms of bringing people, elevating their self-confidence, really giving them the tools to use when necessary.
Absolutely.
Tell us more about where it comes from within you. Because you started teaching this, it sounds like when you were in high school.
Yeah, so I was teaching. I started teaching. I think my first ran class by myself. I was like 12 or 13 years old.
What?
So I used to teach 4 and 5 year olds. So it's like a 5-year-old,
Still,
like a little
that's
peewee
awesome.
class. Yeah. And it was at my previous location that I trained under with my uncle, this Tearney's martial arts. And from there, that's when I started building my craft of teaching and helping people. I still didn't really, I think as I was going through the process, I still didn't really understand the true impact, I guess, until I got older. Right. And one, you get, parents and students that come back and thank you for what you did in their life. But then when you really start breaking down what you're actually doing, a lot of times, I'm thinking, I'm teaching them a higher kick, or I'm teaching them how to do a better punch. And it's like, oh, look how much higher that kick is. But there's so much more happening than just that, right? Their flexibility is getting better, right? Being able to do a good punch, that means their focus is getting better. Then they're also able to process and learn what I'm teaching them. So now it's not just teaching them punching and kicking, it's teaching them the process of learning and how to actually make this stuff happen. All of this came later in my life, but the foundation was being built way early. So as I got older, I started to understand a little bit better of how I craft my teaching to really have more impact than just a punch and kick.
This sounds like it would be so relevant off the mat. Like
exactly. Yeah. That was it, right? Because again, a lot of people, when they come to martial arts or when they come into a program, they always want, everyone thinks like the discipline, the focus, the respect, and those are all tangible character skills. But learning is a skill that has to be taught and and then how does someone process what they're learning, right? Body mechanics, right? So, when you think of discipline, focus, although you don't really think about the body mechanics and what you have to do, what part of the brain is making this part move, what part of the brain is making that part move, right? How to respond to different situations, like what gives you the fight or flight mode. So those are things that, as we start crafting our program, and when I was able to kind of get into my own space and build my own program, that's kind of the space that I was more coming from, more of not just teaching how to protect yourself, but teaching you the other parts of life that you need to be successful.
Right. It's like the how. How does somebody get there? Not just what they're doing.
Yes.
But really breaking down and deconstructing the whole process.
Absolutely.
Have you always been that kind of thinker? Because that sounds like it's a you thing.
I believe I have been, partly because of my fighting, right? I fought quite a bit. So, in competition. So in competition, you have to read, you have to respond, and you have to react. So there's a lot of things that's happening. Then you got to know, all right, what part of this library am I going to pull out in this moment that I got to use in this moment? What part of this library am I going to pull out and I got to use in this moment? So I think because that always was happening at a fast pace and I was actually fairly good at it, it helped me take that way of learning and processing and using it and now putting it into my craft of teaching and becoming a better instructor for other people.
How'd you get into fighting?
So obviously as a martial arts school, we did a lot of karate tournaments. So that was really like my thing. So I started with, just your basic karate tournaments. That's where I won most of my events, most of my world titles in like the sport karate realm.
Did you start with your uncle's
studio?
Yeah,
my uncle's place. Yep. So I won my first martial arts tournament. My mom had it. It was 1983. I was a first place medal.
Love it.
And then I still have one of my first trophies. It was 1985. It was like a first place trophy. It's like one of those old school, like wooden on the side. You gotta, it's like falling and it's leaning to the side. Yeah. Then you gotta kind of, tighten it up and everything. But so I've been competing. I was competing at a young age. And then I was able to kind of craft and get better as I got older. Started traveling a little bit more, kind of on my own, training on my own, kind of traveling on my own. So then I joined a New York State team, which is like local here. And that team, we went over to England. So I fought over in England, probably was like 96, fought over in England, which was really cool. And then when I came back, I joined a national martial arts team out in California. They just saw me at an event and they brought me in. And so from there I was sponsored and I flew out and fought out in California, Vancouver, like all that, the West Coast a lot. And what happened was like when you compete in these competitions, you earn like a seed from a region. So I earned my national seed from the region out West because that's where the person that sponsored me brought me out to. So I was out in California a lot. Like I said, up and down the East Coast or West Coast there. And then when I go to the event at the World Championships, you will fight people from different parts of the country, different parts of the world. And then wherever you're at on your seed, it kind of leads you to that final fight. So I was able to do that quite often. And then from that team, I joined another team, which is a Detroit-based team, and they were full sponsored as well. And they were around for like 2 years. And then I joined my last team, which was the All-Stars, which was like the best of the best in the U.S. that kind of traveled throughout the world and stuff. So with those guys, I really was able to kind of take my competition space to a whole nother level.
What was it like for you at that time? So I'm imagining, I mean, even as you walk through that timeline, you're probably like in your 20s?
Yeah, I think
like early 20s?
I was 20. I started probably like 22 up until 36-ish. So it was a good run. But yeah, that 22.
I mean, for a professional athlete, that's a really long run.
22 to 27 was probably like 28 was probably like my most peak, like going at it, like really kind of driving.
What do you think that was about? Like, what made that peak for you?
I think it was the era of competitors.
Okay. So like they elevated you?
They elevated me. You wanted to be in the room with them. You wanted to be in that circle with them. You wanted to be on the mat, whether competing with them and or against them. You just wanted to be in that conversation. So that was kind of, I think that time was like that time for me, like that really like heavy time. Then as I got older, you know, everyone's kind of starts taking their own path and things like that. So when you get older, kind of, I don't say the competition, it slows down, but just that desire that you had when you were in the 20s to 27, 28-year-old.
You hit that high.
Yeah, you were like, oh, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, so it was a good time though. It was a great time. I was able to, when I was like 31, I was able to jump in. So now I get into more of the full contact realm. So I fought in what's called the World Combat League, which was ran by Chuck Norris. I did that for 2 years. There was a full contact TV televised event. I did that. And then locally, when I decided to open up my own location, kind of go on my own, I did some full contact fights here, some Muay Thai fights here, just to kind of like brand myself, not just being a karate guy, but a little bit more than just that, right? So
right.
A lot of people, when people think martial arts, they all think it's all one thing, right? So when you're a fighter, like, oh, you're this kind of fighter. There's so many different elements of fighting and different ways of fighting. So I just wanted to kind of have my name and have myself not be pigeonholed into one space.
Can you help me understand more about it? I don't really know anything about fighting. So you mentioned Muay Thai, you mentioned karate, you mentioned Krav Maga.
Yep. So
Krav Maga.
Yeah. So Krav Maga. Yeah.
So we put the upstate New York spin on it. Krav Maga.
Krav Maga. No. So the karate world in karate, I'm just speaking of karate as itself, there is traditional karate leagues and then there's what's called sport or open karate leagues. So my competition was more on the open sport karate league. And then when you go into the combative space, that's more of like your Muay Thais, your Jiu-Jitsu, your more UFC, that realm. So it's two different realms. Like there's the karate realm, then there's the UFC fighting realm. So my space was more of the karate realm. And then when I started looking to get into more of the full contact, which would be in more of the combative realm, that's when I started doing some of the Muay Thai fights and things of that nature. Never really got into like UFC. I felt like during the time, I felt I was kind of like past my age for it per se. Like I think when UFC really started picking up, I was probably like 33, 34, 35. And it's like, okay, I'm 35. I'm not going to go scrap with a 22-year-old or a 20-year-old. Not in that space.
The recovery, I imagine.
Yeah. It was different. Like I think it would have been a lot of different mindset that you would have to do. And I think at that time I had already done so much competition that I didn't see myself shifting to that mindset. I was more kind of now more into building my brand, who I am as an instructor, you know, having a family now, so it's a little bit different. Yeah. So all
identity
those things
shifts.
Yeah, identity shifts, right? That's really what it was. It's like, and so for me, it was kind of like I did not go into that space. But like I said, when I shifted out of the sport karate realm and I started opening up my own location, I was like, okay, I want to do some more full contact type stuff locally. So as my local brand, I am not just one thing. I'm a multitude of things. So. So then the Krav Maga came in. I think when did I start that? I did that back in 2001, 2002, somewhere around there is when we started doing that. So it's like 3 levels of training that I've went through for them. So I'm a level 3 instructor in Krav Maga. And Krav Maga, I tend to not really say it a lot just because of what's happening in the world. You know, Krav Maga is an Israeli defense hand-to-hand combat system. So because of that, you know, I try to be a little more conscious of, you know, what the world and society is going through. But it is a very useful, a very realistic martial arts system that people are able to, that I feel that I'm able to deliver to someone that they can take it and be able to use it immediately to help them get to a safer place, right? So now if I'm not looking at it from what the world perspective is, more of what, you know, what I felt my sister needed in that time,
Wasn't it crazy too that it becomes like politicized?
Yeah, it becomes politicized. And so again, I just personally, I don't, I pay attention to the temperature of the room.
Yep.
Right. So I try to be very careful within, what type of rhetoric I want to have come on, because I have people that are on both sides that feel how they feel, right? And to respect both sides, I just say, hey, this is what I do. We teach comparative self-defense. But if you're asking me where it comes from, what's the base, this is the base.
Yep.
And that's how we got there.
Yeah, and it's very simple.
Very simple. Yes, very simple. Like I said, I love the mindset that it comes from.
Yeah.
As well as the simplicity to it.
What would you say, like, if you were to break those disciplines down, is the real differentiating factor the mindset, or is it like the physical modality? I don't even know if you can split them up.
I think everything has its place. And in most of the time, it has its place for the time it was in.
Interesting. Like, so what it's used for?
What it's used for, how it's used for the time. When I say the time that you're in, right? So again, my 5th degree black belt is in karate, right? It's in martial arts. But there are some aspects of karate that I don't feel would really translate to a situation that is happening more in today's world.
Got it.
Right? So that's where, to me, something like our Krav Maga or a jiu-jitsu program or, Muay Thai striking type program, more of like that automatic hand-to-hand combat type of thing. And you got to react and respond in those situations, may be more beneficial to someone in the world today than maybe what it had been in the past. I would even say 80s, 90s, 70s, you see the old school karate guys walking around. Like that was a huge thing back then, but that was a different time. I think the time is just so different now that, and our world is just so different that we have to adapt and adjust to what the world is. And I feel that's what I've kind of done with our system and our program, is kind of adapt to what I feel not just kids, but adults need as well to be successful in the world.
Yeah, and I guess what I hear you saying too is like there's the craft of it, of different martial arts and which modality or theory you're essentially pulling from.
Yeah.
But then there's also the utility of it, right? Like if you're teaching me self-defense, you're teaching me differently than you are teaching someone coming into the studio every week or multiple times a week to learn the craft.
Absolutely, because my time with you is limited.
Yeah.
Right. We just talked about the session you and your team did. Ideally we had a 2-hour block. So a 2-hour block is not a lot of time compared to like 3 years of training.
Right.
So I need to be able to craft what I give you in that 2 hours, that when you walk out of here, you feel not 100% safer, but man, you feel 25 to 30% safer than what you did when you walked in, right? You feel you have something that, it can trigger your response to what you learned in our class, right? So that's the difference between someone that's actually wanting to train in martial arts and someone that's coming to just kind of get some things to kind of help them, just to help them feel a little more confident. Like what ifs, like what is in this what if moment, what should I do? But I don't really want to do the full on 3 or 4 years of training. But if someone did this to me, what should I do? Right. And that's kind of how I try to craft this. So again, if you're with me for an hour or 2 hours, that's going to be the theories that I'm going to bring in. And everything in martial arts is theory, right? In theory, you do this is what should happen. But sometimes theories don't always work out the way you want it to be. So, that's why, again, like how I like to teach it from a responsive, natural, responsive, instinctive response to a situation, because you're instinctively going to do this regardless. How do we build off of that instinct and make that a safer thing for you?
Yeah, and I'm even remembering, even though it was months ago, some of the things that you taught us, which is like, in this moment, you are going to be scared.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how do you use some of that energy even to put it, to like go out as opposed to freeze up?
Yes, that is key. But again, that little nugget right there can be the nugget that changes a situation for a person.
Yeah.
Right. And that is where the true value of what I feel I do, I can't speak for anyone else, but I feel that I do, is that I give you that moment to understand this moment. And then how do you change your perception of how you're feeling to something that's going to help keep you safe?
Yeah.
Right. And then when you're thinking that, okay, now you have that now what do I do in this moment? What's the most vulnerable thing I can hit or I can attack, right? Because it's going to give me a little bit more time. When I have more time, what can I create? More space, right? So those are things that we kind of like try to instill when I do the classes.
Did you come up with that all on your own?
I won't say I came up with it all on my own. I would say that I, through the training that I've had, I also follow another trainer. He's very extreme. Like he is like, his thing is you have to match violence with violence, which I don't bring into my conversation as much, because when people think of violence, they get afraid. But you can't be afraid of violence, because if you're afraid of violence, then you can't match the violence, right? So some of my shifting, my thinking has shifted. So now I have this Krav Maga or this combative self-defense training that I do, and then I have someone that's kind of giving me a different way of approaching it, right? So now I have both sides. I can have the softer side, but then also can have the moment where I got to get you to understand this is where you got to get to. I can still be soft, but you have to be able to get here if you want to go home to your family. So between those two, it's not really me just kind of coming up with it on my own. It's me just taking the information, just kind of crafting it to how I want to deliver it for the people I have the opportunity to work with.
It's also so like it lands in a different way than any other way that I've heard it before, which is, it's like and I shared this with you then. I'm like, it stirred something up in me that I didn't like, but that I knew that I needed to hear, where it's almost like keeping the blinders on and having this oblivious version of safety is not helpful whatsoever. And especially as a woman or somebody who is potentially more vulnerable, to put our heads in the sand is certainly never going to keep ourselves safe. But to learn it also puts it up in my face where I have to be accountable for it. That this could happen. And that is scary.
Again, it's insurance, know? And I would say in the world that we live in today, it is more likely to happen than it would have happened 15, 20 years ago. Our world is just different now. You just never know when that moment's gonna come into your space, and then how do you respond to it, right? So that is key. And I think for me, as far as being able to connect to the person and to their, I guess you could say, their soul or to their identity, that comes from all my other communication and way I've learned of how to communicate and how to deliver the message where it's an impactful message, and it makes you kind of feel digging deeper, right? As to what would I do in that situation? Okay, well, I know what you're thinking. Now let's help you go through that process of getting to the safer place for yourself.
Yeah. And you mentioned before, too, I mean, I know you were already engaged in martial arts at the time, but you also mentioned that your sister was attacked and the impact that had on you was to really start to help people. But
and again,
what was that like?
It was so, again, just sharing a little bit of her story. She was out late at night, which obviously she probably shouldn't have been. And she was walking through a park late at night, and someone attacked her, right? And at that time, I didn't know the system that I have now and the things that I have now. So I'm just on we about to find this guy, right? So we went, looking for him, whatever. Obviously, we didn't find him, which I'm glad. God is amazing that way. But from that point, when I started learning the system, I'm like, oh my gosh, like if I had this ability to teach and show her, maybe she would have seen before it happened. Like, she would have had her awareness level a little higher. Maybe this person wouldn't be able to get behind her to the point where she didn't even know they were behind her. Like all this stuff that may have happened that if I knew at the time, I could have shared with her. It could have helped her not have to go through all the trauma that she's gone through since. Right. So that is probably, and it is a personal thing for me. Because of that, I feel now that I have this information, it's really selfish of me not to share it, because me selfishly not sharing it with other people and with other families, there could have been something I could have given to them that could have saved them or helped them, right, if the moment came. So,
do you talk to your sister about that? Like,
we've talked. Way back when, it's been a while, right? So we've talked, kind of way back, and, I apologize to her. And obviously she doesn't see it as being my fault or whatever, or anybody's fault, really. It's just kind of what happened. But,
do you like hold yourself responsible?
I'm the big brother, So as a big brother, you always kind of you think of wanting to protect your family the best that you can. So in that moment, I wasn't there with her, right? But you just wish that you could have helped her.
Yeah.
So that's more or less what it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I also have a big brother who I think I needed to tell at a certain point, like, you need to back off, you know, but at the same time, I'm so grateful that he has shown up for me in so many ways and still does, to this day. So I totally get that and the level of intensity that comes with it. And, I imagine for her too, it's like wanting to reassure you.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a tough time for the family, and for her. So, that's, if there's one thing that I know that I can do, this is something I can do. Yeah. Right. So, when the Renz thing happened where the guy, he attacked his daughter, the daughter and the mom. Yeah. And so like that happened. And immediately I'm like, I'm going to put together a class, put together that. And it's like, when I put together, it's unfortunate because some people always look at it as like a bad thing. Right. So when I put together this workshop, it was a mom and daughter, mom and me class for like, what do you do in a situation if somebody were to attack you and you're with your kids? How do we deal with that? Yeah. Right. Because no one's ever addressed that in the moment. And all of a sudden, here's the moment.
Yep.
Right. So at that time, it was like, and it was like, oh, you're trying to capitalize. And I didn't charge anything for it. It was a free workshop. But you have people like, the trolls. So they come in and, oh, you're trying to, how dare you to us? Like, listen, like, do you think that this mom and daughter was able to have a session that gave them the understanding of what to do in these moments that it could have possibly helped?
Right.
Gave them a 5% chance of actually being a better outcome? Would you think they not want that? So when we did the workshop, I think at this time, I probably had like 110, 115 people come to it.
Awesome.
Right. And it was great. And again, I just crafted it around, the parent, the child, parent and child together. And it wasn't something that I like already did before. It was like, as I said, it's like that fighter mode in me. This is the challenge. This is the situation.
Yeah.
How do we craft it where it's impactful for everybody that's here? And that's what we're able to do.
What's really cool about it, though, is that it sounds like that is the way of operating that you've always had, right? Where it is you are reading the environment, and maybe your antenna is incredibly astute and attuned.
My wife tells me it's too bad. It's too much. Like I'm always like, like, oh, yes. We just talked about this the other day. She's like, I was like, I'm sorry, I just can't help myself. Like, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that, I'm putting it together. Does that make sense? It was like, it's like, all the time. So I got.
At what point does it annoy her? I'm wondering if she and I have this in common.
Yeah, I mean, I think it annoys her a lot. She probably doesn't say it that often to me, but I think it does because okay, this is what I tell her. I said, most of the time, this is what I tell a lot of people, I am correct about 97% of the time. Mm-hmm. There's a 3% chance I might be wrong. Right. And if I'm wrong, I was like, oh, that was at 3%. And I could be totally wrong. It could be a whole wrong. I'm like, no, that's just 3%. Yep. So that is a gift and a curse, I guess, at the same time, because it does in a sense kind of help me keep ahead of potential of what can become.
It does. And I guess, jokes aside, it's, I'm going to botch it, but the Viktor Frankl quote that is like, between the event and your reaction is this moment of response. And like, that's this time that you have where you really can change the outcome of whatever is going to happen next. Yes. And it sounds like you are so well trained to not just have this antenna out and be attuned to your environment, but to be very thoughtful and to be very intentional about what the next move is going to be.
Yes.
So is that your fighter training, or is that also a default of just who you are as a person? Because I feel like people need to learn how to do this one way or another.
So again, some of it is the fighter training, right? Some of it is a default of who I am. Some of it is just the environment that you grow up in and you see, right? So in this environment, in certain cases, you're looking for what's going to come, right? And your antenna's up because you see certain things that are happening that may lead to other things, right? So at that time, it's kind of like, okay, how do I get ahead of it? Because I already see some of the patterns, or already see some of the things that are kind of coming. How do I get ahead of it?
So are you talking about childhood, like growing up?
Life in general. Yeah, okay. Growing up, again, it's just, I don't know, not to dive too deep into it, but yeah, just growing up, you see a lot, right?
Yeah.
So when you see a lot, it does certain patterns of things red flag you because you see how you anticipate how it's going to possibly end up going. And most of the time that you've seen it or that you were in the environment of seeing it, it did end up going that way, right? But there was no adjustment in that path of while it's happening.
Right. And especially when you're a kid, you are helpless to the situation. Yeah. You're observing and then you're keeping yourself safe. And that's, I think, where a lot of people internalize that need to have the antenna out to scan the environment, to try to determine what is safe and what's not. Yep. And it sounds like that's likely the case for you. But I think also for a lot of people, regardless of really what the stimulus is right now, it's almost just like whatever's on social media or whatever is this perceived threat. People are in this hyper aroused, reactive, almost like a fantasy version of it. Yep. Does that make sense?
And this is again where you come to, if I'm reacting, that means it's way too late.
Yeah.
Right? Because I didn't read it and I didn't set myself up for the proper response. I just reacted.
Yes.
Right. So for again, I guess this is some of my antenna part, right? My antenna part gives me the ability to respond to something as opposed to reacting to it. Because when it just comes to me now, now I have to react to it. But when my antenna's up, I'm kind of a little more, okay, what's happening? I'm reading the situation. All right, okay, this is coming this way. How am I going to respond to it, as opposed to reacting? Right, and that is again when I tell my students the way I look at it as fighting, I feel like I have to read what is this person doing, right? Then I have to respond to what they're doing, right? Then my response is how I set up my reaction, right? So like all these three things, I call them my 3 R's. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back. It's read, react, and respond. So I read to what I see happening. I react to, okay, my react, as I said before, what is the files I'm gonna pull to help give me the right response? Because if I don't pull the right response, my reaction could be worse than what I want it to be, right? So those are the type of things that I try to, again, in my students as well as in my daily life, I try to. And that's why I guess I overanalyze sometimes, but that's how I break it down.
I don't know if there's such thing as overanalyzing.
Yeah. Again, so that is it. So like, what am I seeing? Okay, how am I going to react to it? What's my response to it? And that's kind of how I try to.
Are you good at chess? Do you know how to play
I've
chess?
never played chess. No, I never played chess.
I don't either. Yeah. But I imagine that's what it's like, where it's like people, or poker even, right? Yeah. It's like learning those subtle nonverbals. But
yeah, so for me, I don't think I'll be good at any of those because it's too slow of a pace for me. I'm like you're
like right now.
Yeah, let's go. Like, all right, what's the game? Let's go. All right, how we're gonna do it? So I don't
have the patience to learn them.
Yeah. Like I think that's like I wouldn't mind learning chess, but I just don't. I am a pop type person, right? So
it's the physical.
Just to sit and have to like really like break it all down. That might be too slow for me. Like I really got to get to it. Like why can't I just knock all this over and get there and take your king or whatever? Why do I got to get there? So that is, I know it's an amazing game. I know some people that it really, as far as helps kind of like center them as well. I think it's amazing, but it's just never been like my cup of tea, like my thing, right? Kind of like golf. We did the golf thing. I'm not a good golfer, right? It's just not my thing, right? No. But give me a basketball, you give me a football or something that give me some lacrosse, give me something that's like we're going. Now I can go, but. Yeah, but I think it's important though because it does kind of help center you some too, right? Because I think that's been my biggest challenge is that I'm always like in this go mode.
Yeah.
Where I do need to kind of like sometimes just pull back and I have to make sure I take myself and I pull back.
Like stillness?
Stillness, yeah. I don't know what that is really. I'm not great at that. I try to, but.
What do you do to try to be still or to calm your mind or to calm your body?
As of late, or in like within, I would say this year per se, trying to do it. I try to listen to calming music, like just kind of like a background type music, and just kind of just take a deep breath. I try to do that when I'm in a good pattern, like 5 to 10 minutes of just kind of just like having just mindfulness, like nothing in my thoughts, just try to clear my whole mind. It's really challenging, but it does feel good for me. Last year before the weather got cold, I haven't gone back out yet, but I would go out to like Onondaga Lake and I was just at the lake and I would just kind of just sit and just listen to the water, listen to the nature and just sit. And I feel that was really good for me as far as like a reset and just kind of like a not thinking about the business, not thinking about family stuff, just kind of just being in this space. And that is something that I'm going to continue to grow into, a space I'm going to grow into for myself, because I do think it's good for me. And it just gives me another sense of a peace of mind to kind of come at things differently now too, as opposed, as we said earlier, responding and reacting to stuff all the time. So,
well, it does. I mean, so are you familiar with yoga
I
principles?
am, yes.
I bet you are, right?
Yes.
So the power of Shavasana, right, at the end of the physical practice is after you've, so the type of yoga that I'm certified in is called Baptiste yoga. And so it's journey into power. But the journey is the actual physical practice where you're sweating and you're controlling your breath and you're going through all of the physical movements. But then at the very end, you're in Shavasana, which is that moment of stillness.
Yeah.
And that's where the power is. But it's almost like working your way through the physical part and the mental part so that you can burn off that energy, so then you can get to that stillness.
I have one of my black belts. She's a yoga instructor. And I think I went to like 2 of her classes. She's like, you got to come back. I'm like, but I could see the power in it. One of my good buddies in Detroit, he does yoga often, and he's a very centered person.
Well, it sounds very similar, like the mindset.
Yeah.
And I hear like with fighting, a lot of it is responding to the environment, but I think in yoga, a lot of it is responding to and being aware of what's going on in your physical body. So it's this attunement into your body and getting the cues and the information from where do you feel it. It's not outside of yourself, really, but it is so that you really get very connected into that. How cool would it be to do a hybrid?
Like a yoga self-defense class? Yeah, maybe we could team up and do that.
I know.
But I have to do yoga first, though. So I have to do yoga first, and you got to come over and do the self-defense part of this. And we'll combine the two.
That would be incredible. Or you take the instructor that you have who's already doing both.
Yeah. I can have her. She can do it all. Yeah. She's actually pretty amazing. Yeah,
I would love that. I'm like, imagine Shavasana at the very end of like a martial arts class.
Yeah.
Man, I'd pay for that one. So tell me more about you. Like, who would you say are the most important or influential people in your life? And I know it's really tough to narrow that down, but.
When you say influential, what do you mean by that? Like are there people that like I look up to, people that I communicate with, people that kind of inspire me? Like when you say inspiration, like what do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think what I mean, and you can really answer this however you want, but I'm curious about, like, you have done really incredible things in your life and you continue to do really incredible things in your life, even like this massive ripple effect that you have on our community, on the greater community. If you think about, the people who are like, I know I went home and I taught what you taught me to my daughters. And I mean, this ripple effect that you may never even know. Right. And so to me, that's incredible power, and you are influencing people.
Thank you.
So I'm curious about who are the magical people in your world, maybe now or before, who have shaped you to be who you are and to do the great things that you do.
So I guess it's a combination of things, right? Because I would start first with my uncle, right? My uncle, when I started training with him and when I was under him, he showed me a different life than what I was seeing, right? So I grew up in the inner city. So when you grow up in the inner city, like, you're kind of like in this box, right? And if you don't get outside that box, you don't know that there's another world outside that box. So for me and for him and my mom to put me in martial arts, it kind of took me out of this box, so I was able to see a different world, a different lifestyle, a different community of people. And then obviously I would come back home, but when I came back home, even though I knew this is where I was, I knew there was something else, right? So I would say in that space, I would say my uncle in that space was very influential in giving me to see that there is more than what I'm accustomed to seeing, or what our lifestyle is accustomed to seeing. So that would be one person I feel that's been very influential in my life. People will be surprised that I'm saying it, but it's a true fact. I mean, obviously we don't really have the same relationship that we had in the past, but that was key.
Yeah, it's foundational.
That's a foundational piece of who I became, right? And what I wanted for my own family and for my life. So I think that's important to say. As I've gone through the process and journey, I've met some amazing people that have been very influential in my life. I have a good friend of mine. His name is Jody Tension. He's down in the Bronx. Very, very strong male, but very wholesome person too. And I connect with him a lot. And we, as far as business side, as far as being a father, being a dad, we both went through divorces. So we share that in common. We both have kids from our previous marriage, kids from the marriages that we're in. So it's like we have a lot in common that we communicate with and we connect with. Yeah. I have a buddy of mine that's in Detroit that I connect with that like just about every day. He and I were on the fighting teams. Both of these guys are my karate guy relationships that came from just like a martial arts relationship and karate relationships to actual real relationships. He's in Detroit. Him and I talk all the time. Kids are the same age. We both, again, just some of it is like people that have been on the same path with me that have kind of gone through some of the same things with me, but I see how they've come out of it. Right. And they kind of influenced me to keep driving. My after school summer camp mentor, Dwayne Spires, and his wife, Lauren Spires, they have been a huge impact on me, and they're down in Florida, but they've been a huge impact on me because of, one, their commitment to service to the community, right? So that's been huge for me. And then just their relationship as a husband and wife. The yin and the yang, the way they interact, the way they communicate with each other, how they raise their family, and then the vulnerability that they have where they actually share the hard parts of not just their business, but the hard parts of their relationship and marriage that they had to go through and they have to keep fighting through and kind of keep growing past. That is important to me because I feel, like I said, my first marriage, I didn't really have real guidance as to what it meant to be the husband, what it meant. I knew what I thought it was supposed to be, right? I know what I didn't have, what I felt I should be. But there were some things that may have been lacking from me on my part that I could have been better at. So, seeing someone and then, being in a new relationship, a new marriage, having the ability to have a chance to do it again. Now I have kind of like some pillars of people.
Yeah, like relationship role models.
Yeah, relationship role models per se that I can look at and say, okay, you know what? They seem perfect, but they've had their own challenges as well, and they continue to win through those challenges. And they don't just win individually; they win together. So when they win together, their family wins together. And that's probably been someone that has been influential as far as not just in my business, but also in my personal life as a married father of kids and, and family and relationship with my wife and things like that. So I think that's been some influential people in my life. And there's a lot of people that, that kind of like impact you in a way, that kind of helps shift some of your mindset and some of what you do. But if I would say that would be my journey, would be my uncle first, then my one of my good friends, Jody Tension, and then Askia Allison. And I have another friend, Raymond Daniels, who's in Dallas, Texas, or Texas area now. He used to be in California. But like in my karate world, those are my three guys that I still communicate with. I still have a strong relationship with, and we don't just talk about martial arts. We don't just talk about business. We talk about life, like family, raising boys, raising daughters, being like in this space. So I feel that's important for me. And then, like I said, on the other side of it, as far as Dwayne and Lauren Spires, I think they probably influenced me the most as far as looking at how I want to lead my family and provide for my family and be in the role of my family and be a community person as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that it's hard to find other guys who are talking this talk and who are as emotionally aware and, are willing to put themselves out there and be vulnerable and open?
I believe it is. I believe it is. I believe that I believe in the moment, if you have a moment to talk with someone, like, and I'll just speak of a guy. So I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine, and he and I talk, and, we actually were in a car together for a long time, and we just had this amazing conversation. He's a little younger than I am, but, just hearing some of the things that he was going through and some of the things that, I've been through, and we kind of shared these stories, and then just seeing where he's at and the things that he has gone through to where he's at is incredible, but then also help them understand like it's okay. Like, you mean like you're okay. Like you don't have to go back to this space. You don't have to go back to that space. Like, you know, you have an amazing family that you can continue to grow and become, like you've already doing it, but like you can make it even better.
Yeah.
If we can kind of let go of this side of it. Right. But sometimes, again, and I'm guilty of it, most people probably are, is that there's things that we just kind of hold on to from our past that we continue to still help shape part of what our life is today. And if you were to go back and talk to yourself now, what would you tell yourself? Like, you know what I mean? Like, would you tell yourself you got to let this go because this is preventing you from really go to the next level? So I think it's really hard as far as men, if it's a group setting, because now it's in a group setting, it's just a group setting. But if it's like a one-on-one, usually you can get a little deeper within conversation. And then tends what happens sometimes is like maybe that conversation might pull that person away from you because now they don't want to, every time they come around you, they have to remember this conversation you told them, but they still feel they may not still be making those right changes that they need to make, right? So now they don't want to be so much in your presence as much, right? But they appreciate who you are, they appreciate what you do. And again, I don't feel I'm a preachy person, but and that's the other thing too. I'm not a big people that preach all the time as far as like, just let us be. Can we just be in the space? And if we open up the door of the conversation, then we open the door of the conversation. If we don't, let's just be together. And I think that's sometimes where I think men have a difficult time, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Was that just a ramble?
No. I think that's even why I asked it, because I guess that's my perception too. And then it's like, it's different pockets of, you know, society, different pockets of culture, right? Like race playing a part in it, you know, different demographics, SES playing a part in it, you know, and where you grow up, what your family rules are about talking about emotion. And it sounds like you have this high level of emotional intelligence and awareness, and your willingness to be open about it, I think is such a gift to people who can be around it and who can say like, oh, wow, okay, you know, here's Carlos Tearney, like this badass, really strong, like black guy who has all of this stuff going on. He's influencing all of these people in these incredible ways, and he's open and he's vulnerable and he's honest. Yeah. It's such an incredible thing, I think, to show people.
So I could say, I can say that sometimes it's a typical thing, right? As men, we do suppress a lot, right? We suppress a lot, and then we navigate through what we got to navigate through, right? So, you know, as far as like my journey and things that I've gone through, I can share the highs because I know what my default future would be, right? If I don't stay on a certain path, I know what's available, what's on the other side of it. Because it's always going to be there for me. It's always going to be a part of the cloth of who I am. But I get to choose on where I want to land, and I choose to land in this space that I'm in now.
Is that the box that you're talking about? Like that's where you could be, or there are probably 100 other iterations of it. Yeah, the box is the box, right? Yeah. So when I say the box is a lifestyle. It's a mindset. It's a lot of things that don't produce growth, that don't produce a better place for yourself. Yeah. It's just and it's not saying that settling is not okay. You're just stuck. Right.
And I know that, you know, for my family and for myself, I would never want them to fill that space.
What would you say to people who are in that box, who say you don't get it, you got out, you know, but you don't understand, or they are feeling stuck?
Yeah. So I believe that everything comes with an opportunity, right? There's a lot of opportunity in moments in our life that sometimes we don't take advantage of when it's there, because we allow what we're used to become the default, and then that default is like self-sabotages anything that I could have had. So my advice would be to someone that is in this box, and I just say the box, and I use that as a reference as kind of like coming from the inner city and the struggles and things that you may be facing. When the opportunity presents itself for you to better yourself, go full in and try not to bring anything from where you're from into it, right? So what I mean by that is, you know, allow yourself to learn and grow and become different than staying the same, right? A lot of times I want to be able to go into this space, but I want to be able to be who I am. Well, you can't really be who you are sometimes in this space if that's not what the space allows it to be, right? The space needs you to be something different, needs you to be something what would be considered maybe better, right? That's what you got to allow yourself to be able to get to. Mm-hmm. How do I do that? And sometimes we don't know the steps of getting there. So now there's no patience to help me understand and how to get there. And because there's no patience to help me understand how to get there, I come back to my default. Now I lost this opportunity. And the cycle just kind of repeats itself, right? As opposed to everyone understanding where I'm coming from and where I'm coming from out of this box, and really helping mold me into where I want to become, right? For me, I was able to I was able to see a different lifestyle because my uncle pulled me out of the box. Now I still could have chosen to be what I want to be, or I could have chosen to be something different.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's where it comes down to.
Well, the other thing that I hear in that is it's actually you are healing your trauma.
Yes.
From that time in your life by doing what you're doing, right? Not just from a will perspective, I want to get out, but it's also you are healing your brain by these repetitive practices of, honestly, probably with karate, where it's staying focused and it's allowing your prefrontal cortex and those neural pathways to build those connections back, because in trauma, they are shut down. Yeah. And so even your fighter mentality, it's paradoxically how you've healed trauma.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep.
It's really interesting.
But it comes down to the person. Do you choose to fight or do you not choose to fight?
Right.
Because the fight isn't easy.
And what fight?
Yeah, it's not easy, right? And, no matter what fight you choose, it's a fight, right? Whether you choose to fight for the better or whether you choose to fight in the space that you're in, you're still fighting in this space, right? You're fighting this space because you don't want to be in this space. Yeah. But then when you get out here, it's hard and it's not easy. And it will remain hard until it gets easier, right? And it won't get easier until you take the next step. Yeah. Everything's about the next step. If you take the steps back, it's always gonna be harder. I always tell myself, like, I feel like I take 5-10 steps forward and I may take 2 steps back, but I'm still 7 steps ahead. Mm-hmm. Right. So I build off that 7 steps ahead and I keep growing and keep growing and keep growing. That's kind of like how I look at it as far as my own personal growth. Yeah,
I love that. I always use the analogy of a sand mountain. And it's like, I can keep climbing up and I am certainly going to slide right back down, but I am still higher than I would have been before. Exactly. But the slide down is part of the process. It just is. Have you ever had a time in your life where you really hit that bottom, like where you really felt like it was a rock bottom?
Yes. So it would have been 16 years ago. At that time, my wife and I separated, and then my uncle and I separated. So, that was probably like the hardest time of my life because, again, I'm probably 33 at that time. Had a wife, had 2 kids, was working in a martial arts business with my uncle. And then everything just kind of like fell apart. My marriage fell apart. My uncle and I's relationship fell apart. And I literally was like on this island by myself. The two entities that I felt were my rock and my stability was gone. Mm-hmm. And I that was probably the lowest point of my life. And I think that's what it was more of like that all changed. My wife and I split, my uncle and I split. And then I was doing a security guard job at Lemoyne College. And Lemoyne College has a chapel. So I would have to go and check the chapel every night and just kind of go in and make sure it's secure. And what I would do is I would go in and I would literally go into chapel. And I was never really like a religious person at the time, but I just they say it works, so I'm gonna try it. So I went into the chapel.
Like whatever works at that point, I'll try.
I'm just like, I went to the chapel and I just prayed. I said, Lord, I know that, you gave me, my first wife and, the relationship didn't work out the way that it should. I know I made mistakes, this, that, and the other. I was like, but if you give me another opportunity, I will be better. I will be better. I know that you will bring this person to me that you have given to me and I will be better. And literally like for my time of praying in that time, like 3 or 4 months later, I met my wife that I'm with now. And she was already into church. She was already like a person of God. She was already like all these things. So it's like, okay, Carlos, you said you're going to do A, B, and C. Here, let me give you.
Time.
This is the time. Here we go. So that was a moment for me where, like I said, I felt I was at like rock bottom. And I felt in that moment like the power of prayer really helped. And again, I'm not sure where other people are, but for me, it helped in that space. And he brought me someone that, was already in the relationship with God. And on top of that, it was the same church that I didn't even know that my dad was going to. So my father had went and found Christ and found, his religion. And so like, for me, it was like, all right, I'm going in the right direction.
Yeah, all the signs are pointing
And from
here.
there, it was just kind of like constantly building and kind of just trying to be better, trying to get better. And here I am, 16 years later, I told I was going to be nothing but a janitor. I was told I was going to be successful in life, and I've been pretty successful.
Yeah, you have. So if you could say anything to that guy 16 years ago, what would you say?
I would say, get up. You are a good person. Your heart is genuine. So get up and let's get to work.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out. And that's what I would do.
Love that.
Yeah.
So we're just about out of time.
Yep.
Anything that you wanted to talk about today that we didn't get a chance to yet?
Nothing I can think of. I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, we did cover a lot.
I don't know. This was great. This was good. This was good. Like, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come in and share my story a little bit and share my journey and kind of, how I see things and how I kind of navigate through the world. And yeah,
I'm so grateful. And truly, if there's any pitch that I could make for you, it's for people to reach out, if you're in the central New York area, to reach out to Carlos at Champions Martial Arts and get the corporate teams in there. I can't speak highly enough of the training that you and James, your son, delivered for us. It was fun, but so much more. It was just powerful. It was impactful. It was memorable.
Awesome.
And it was really relevant, like giving us the tools that we didn't even know we needed.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and again, I feel that 16 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to be in that space to do. Mm-hmm. So it's all about where we are now and what we're able to give, and the timing of life. Our timing in life was the right timing in life.
Yeah.
Because if it was 16 years ago, you probably wouldn't have got what you guys were able to experience and anyone else that comes into now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you got up.
Yeah, I got up. I had to get up. It was tough.
You sure did.
It was tough. It was tough. It was a real tough time, but we're here.
Well, that's what makes you stronger, right?
Yes.
It's hitting those rock bottoms, and then decide. You had to make that choice right then.
I had to make a choice. Yeah, I had to make a choice, and again, it was a great choice. I mean, and again, the journey is never straight, right? It's always a curving path, right? But again, being a good person, taking care of my family, loving my kids, and being an influence and impact to other families in our community is like a huge thing for me. So
yeah,
that's my driving force.
Well, I'm grateful for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.